Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Michael Wright, who's an insurance agent with Trailstone Insurance Group, and we're going to be talking about the claims process. Michael, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me back, Mike.
Hey, you're welcome. And I know that when people get insurance coverage for property and casualty, homeowners and car and all the things that go into that, you're wanting to set your mind at ease for I am covered and covered in the best way. But invariably, at some point, something happens where a claim comes up. Might be your fault, not your fault, act of God, that kind of thing. So I'm interested to talk through the process because maybe someone can pick up a tidbit or two and understand the process that you guide them through during the claim when that comes up. So get us started on what kind of claims that even could come up that you are serving your clients with.
I mean, there's numerous things that could come up, and that's ultimately, the biggest thing that I want to shed a little bit of light on here today. If those questions, thoughts, concerns do come up with an independent agent, you can call that agent. You can call me and say, "Hey, Michael, here's what I have going on. What would you advise? What's your opinion? What can we do? How does this apply to my homeowners or my auto insurance policy or my umbrella insurance policy? Let's talk about this." It's happened to me yesterday. I think, as an independent agent, pre-claim consultation is one of the most underrated benefits that's automatically included with having an independent agent.
Well, when you say pre-claim, what does that look like, or what is that really? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm busy. I don't have I barely have enough time to reach out and connect with my agent when a claim actually happens. Let's just say a car accident. I know I have to do it, but I don't want to. But what is a pre-claim consultation? What's the benefit of that, and what really does that entail?
So pre-claim consultation, think something like, maybe a parking lot incident where you bump into somebody's vehicle, or maybe an incident at your home. Let's say your water heater leaks, or maybe your dishwasher leaks, and really, maybe you have $500 or $700 worth of damage. Maybe it's $1,000, maybe it's $1,500 worth of damage, and you're thinking, man, this is why I have homeowners insurance, right? Well, maybe you have a deductible, that's above the amount of damage that you have, and if you file that claim, the claim will be on your claim history. You won't get a payout. So at that point, you're looking at, potential repercussions in the arena of eligibility and rate moving forward, meaning your rates could possibly increase for that claim you never even got a payout on. Or, maybe it's something that you believe to be covered by your homeowners or auto insurance that is specifically excluded in the contract language. There's numerous scenarios where, there's this expectation of I have insurance and it needs to be covered. And unfortunately, that's not the reality.
That's a really good point, because it's like, while you may be able to file a claim, is it in your best interest? And your example of maybe it's over your deductible or under your, so for instance, let's say your deductible is $1,000 and there's $1,500 worth of damage. Does it really make the most sense to file that claim only to get, $500 worth of benefit? You might think so, because then it limits your out of pocket, but then what does that do to your claim history, potentially to your premiums? It could go up.
And that's a really great point. Exactly how you put that is, really close to how I would put it to my client, with the extension of, Mike, this is your policy. At the end of the day, I'm here to help you understand how these things work and how I see them as a professional in the industry. Now you make the decision. What do you want to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if it's a $15,000 amount and the deductible is $1,000, now maybe that helps make that decision move forward. But, I think that's a really good point. And, maybe during that pre-claim consultation, you're layering in some things like, well, you know what? Let's take a look at your deductibles. Is this the best deductible for you to be in? Maybe if we raised it, lowered it, so I think that it gives you the opportunity to pull apart their policy to give a quick check that way too.
One other thing that we haven't quite touched on yet is trying to understand if there's another party who might be liable for damages.
Yeah.
And this is a situation where it's obviously, let's say you got sideswiped, or maybe it's a very minimal amount of damage to your vehicle, maybe an amount of damage to your home that you can continue to move forward and live with while you're exploring the option of an insurance carrier who is going to, take care of or insure the responsible party. So, you can always file a claim against somebody else's party. It may not be the path of least resistance, but it avoids you having to come out of your pocket with your deductible, and it keeps claims off of your history, right? So there's always that option as well. So if you call me with a claim situation, it's not your fault. I'm going to talk to you about all of your options and provide you with all of the information that you need to make the best educated decision as the policyholder.
So again, it's neat when we have these conversations, because what you say brings up a neat idea. And the thing that you just said is really huge, is could someone else, another party, be maybe not at fault because he said, she said, we don't know, but you could assess the situation and go, you know what, I've seen many situations come up like this, and why don't we see if this, or why don't we reach out to, and drawing from your background and your experience, you could give some great advice that way. And maybe that prevents a claim going on your client's policy.
Absolutely. Yep. That's the idea.
Okay. So how about, so that's before something happens. That kind of gives you a little, 30,000 foot view of if and when a claim happens, here's some things to keep in mind. Let's say that the unfortunate event happens, your fault, not your fault. And they're reaching out to you to say, I need to make a claim. What's going on during the process? How are you guiding them during the process?
First and foremost, with every client that I talk to, I always foreshadow with the caveat of, if what you're going through is an emergency situation, you're on the side of the road or your house is on fire, call the carrier right away. Don't waste your time to call me. It's an apparent situation where you need help, right?
Yes, that's a good point.
Other than that, if it's non-emergent and you've got a little bit of time, you're not on the side of the road, give me a call, and let's get that claim filed for you. I'm going to help you file the claim. I have access to all these carrier websites. I'm going to go on. I'm going to file the claim for you. I'm going to get your claim number. I'm going to send you that information directly to your email so you have it. You don't have to worry about sitting on a 1-800 phone number. You can call me directly. After that, I'm going to foreshadow the claims process for you. I'm going to help you understand the types of information that they're looking for. I'm going to help you understand, proactive steps that you can take to expedite the claims process, which can be seen, from the consumer's eye as a tricky process, maybe even a slow process. And furthermore, I'm going to be there for you through the claim to answer any questions, translate any insurance lingo or jargon for you into, a language that you can understand as a consumer, somebody who doesn't do this every day. I tell people all the time also, this is my day job. For whatever reason, I ended up in the insurance industry. I understand it. Reach out to me and lean on me as a resource and as a professional.
And what I heard through that update is something really interesting, because that quote unquote fear of the unknown, in a lot of areas in our life, I think a lot of times that fear is diminished almost 100% when you are told, now, don't be alarmed if this happens, or expect this and this and this, because this is part of the claims process. So I think that guidance really does help alleviate the stress going through it. You might say, hey, now I want you to expect that you're going to get a call from the other insurance company's, claims adjuster, and they're going to be asking questions. It's going to make you feel like you're at fault, whatever you're going to say there. But I think that will help alleviate some of the stress that goes through your client's mind. And I would suspect that you even have feedback from people after the claims process going, wow, you really prepped me well. And what a couple of things you mentioned could happen actually did. And I knew exactly how to respond, or it didn't throw me for a loop like it could have.
I actually had a client tell me one time after a claim, prior to the claim actually being filed, we talked about it and, how the claim could potentially play out. And he verbatim told me that my stock went up in his eyes.
Yes.
So I have, I've absolutely heard that from clients before.
Yeah.
And one other thing I'd like to touch on is when I used to be a claims adjuster, sitting at that desk, it was definitely a tough job. It's a difficult job, but at the end of the day, you're helping people put their lives back together. And when I was in that position, I was dealing with agents now like myself. So I learned a lot
Yeah.
about, this entire process from that prior experience that I have seeing agents go to bat for their clients. I'm like, man, these people really, really care about their clients. And that's ultimately why I'm in this position today, because at the end of the day, I do care about my clients and I know what's right. I know what's wrong. And I don't know everything, but I'll tell you that I have a desire to find the answer for my clients because they chose to do business with me.
It's funny you said, your stock went up in that client's eyes, and it's sometimes it takes a stressful situation to get handled really well for them to feel like, wow, yes. And not that you were treating them any differently before, but it's like they were in a severe situation. They don't deal with that every day. You do. And you were able to calmly guide them through the process. And they were like, yes, this could have gone so much worse. And I know that in many times we probably all experience, the customer service, flare ups, at a store. And maybe you've witnessed this, where you're in line and someone's giving the person at the register a hard time and they just handle it really, really well. And you're going, that really diffused the situation. And so that's a really great thought is, you've seen it from both sides of the equation, and that lends itself to you being able to really smooth things out for your clients on this side, kind of like being a defense attorney or a prosecutor. You've seen it from both directions. So that's really good.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it also allows me to set expectations appropriately, based on the circumstances and the information that I learn from the client who's bringing something, to my attention.
100%. Okay, so now you've given some guidance before claim even happens to say, hey, if this comes up, here's some things to think about. Now the claim happened, and you're walking them through the process. What happens when you start wrapping things up, and now the claim is finished up? What does that look like, and what is your role then in helping your clients move through the claim?
So moving through the claim, I think I would advise a client, just to reach out to me with any questions along the way, because as an independent agent, there's a component of trust with the carriers that we work with, and once it's in the hands of the carrier and the adjuster, 9.9 times out of 10 things go as they should. And if there's any questions regarding information that the adjuster's telling the client, that's when they come back to me. And if they just want to double check or grab my opinion, or if maybe there is something, a little bit wonky, I'll help them find the answer and reach out to the adjuster, and kind of clear the plate, if you will, for all parties.
Yep, that's good. And there might even be some, house cleaning things that you might be able to say, hey, now that they're wrapping things up, you might want to make sure that, whatever the case might be. And maybe there's some things that, hey, keep paperwork or whatever the case is. Like, have there been times where people have come back after a claim is, closed out, and maybe something came up where it's like, oh man, if I had only known to whatever. So maybe you can kind of look forward a few steps and give them some guidance that way too.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, if you're making any sort of improvements, let's say a roof, for example, if you're getting the roof of your home replaced through a hail claim, and you happen to upgrade the class of your shingle to a class 4 or above, that's going to get you a discount on your insurance from that day forward. So you should absolutely, hold on to that documentation, send it to me, and, we'll get in contact with the carrier and be sure that, we're optimizing your policies based on the decisions that you made to protect your house.
So that's a really good point. And, you think of the phrase, have you ever heard of the phrase, being an order taker? In being in sales, you can either be proactive and look for ways to really meet the needs of your clients, or just be an order taker. Well, what you described was like, okay, during the claim process, check the box. Here's the deal. It's done. Okay, good. Any questions? Have a nice day. But you then are able to go, ooh, hey, in that roof claim, tell me about the type of roof you got, because if it's a class 4, if it's this or that, now let me go back and see if I can help you get lower premiums or better coverage or whatever. And a typical traditional just claims process, someone, at a 1-800 number, they would just be going check the box, and not thinking of what the claim actually could do to even bring you a benefit down the road. That's a really, really great perspective.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that a little bit, I had somebody else talk to me yesterday, a client of mine. He's getting his roof replaced, but he's adding solar panels onto his roof. And he has the option of leasing or buying the solar panels. So he's not only adding, a 10, a valuable system to his roof, but there's also the component of how does this affect my insurance? And he was proactive enough to reach out to me, and I was able to provide him insight based on the direction that he goes, whether he's buying or leasing, in terms of how that affects his policies. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, really, really good point. You mentioned like hail damage, and that's kind of like, act of God can't really, that's not like, oops, I ran the red light, I ran into someone, or someone rear-ended me, in a car accident. Talk a little bit about some different types of claims like act of God or catastrophes. How do those variables play into the claims process?
At the end of the day, it's really about understanding what causes of loss are covered and what causes of loss are not. That will make anybody's life in this industry a whole lot easier, in my opinion. There's definitely other things to be considered, like conditions of the policy and term dates and whatnot, and the list goes on. But understanding, what could and what isn't, what could be covered and what isn't covered is, in my opinion, the most important thing to be aware of.
Yeah, 100%. And having someone like yourself who's an independent agent that is looking at all aspects of the policy, the claim, the other things that are covered on their policy and their family. I think having that holistic approach gives you the opportunity to go, oh, you know what? You ought to think about, or hey, make sure that you, and that's so much different than just this tunnel vision, and that's something that you bring to the table too, I would suspect.
Yep, very much so.
Well, excellent. Well, Michael, thank you for this overview on the claims process. Someone is interested in reaching out, connecting with you. What's the best way that they can make contact with you?
You can reach out to me directly. My cell phone number for work is 720-441-0488. If it's easiest, to shoot me a text, give me a call. Either way, I'm happy to chat with you. And, even if you just have general questions about your insurance or insurance in general, or any experiences that you're going through, been through in the past, or might be going through in the future.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking with you today.
Thanks again, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.